quick question before we get into it. When is the last time you did something with other people in person that wasn't work or errands? And I don't mean you texted a friend and said, we should get together soon, and then it never happened.
So, right, we mean actually showing up somewhere with other humans, interacting on a regular basis, not just like those one-off, like Marnie said, meet up for a quick walk once every several weeks.
So if you're just sitting there trying to think of an example and drawing a blank, stick around, because I think that this episode, that what we're talking about today, could be one of the most overlooked pieces of your longevity.
Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. We're Marnie and Stephanie, and each week we share grounded, practical tools to help you feel strong, steady, and energized in midlife and beyond.
Welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast, everyone. And a lot of times on this show, we're diving deep into longevity and hormones and gut health and some of the physical elements of overall well-being. And today we're going to kind of take this in a little bit different direction, but honestly, it's a topic that is so overlooked and it really supports your overall health and longevity.
And don't tune this out if you think you're an introvert and that this isn't for you, because that's not what this is about at all. And it's also not about having a packed calendar or being the most social person in the room. We're not trying to just make you busy, because, this is a topic that we all have to actually work at this, because it's really easy to let building community slide and getting together with friends and getting to know other people slide, because it's the easiest thing that we can kind of drop off our calendar. And if a friendship does go quiet for a while, that can happen without you noticing it. And so that's kind of what we're digging into today. And we just really want to talk about community as longevity and not as a nice to have thing in your life.
Yeah. So let's frame this a bit, because some of you out there may have really packed social calendars, but you may know people, including your parents or siblings or other friends, who don't. And so we kind of want to hit the highlights of why this is truly an important health topic, if you will. So been a lot of statistics done, and this, I feel like it rose sort of post-pandemic because people were truly lonely during the pandemic for obvious reasons. And while it's improved a little bit since the 2020 timeframe, it's still not where it was decades ago. So as of 2026, there was recent data, more than half of Americans actually report loneliness. And this data comes from a pretty big survey of over 7,500 adults. So 1 in 5 Americans are feeling lonely every single day. That's approximately 52 Americans. So let's just pause for a second here. That's a lot of people. And to some degree, it's hitting the younger generation even more so than older, but we are really kind of focused on the midlife population, particularly women. And it's associated with poor mental health and physical health. So there's kind of a ripple effect when it comes to loneliness. It's not like Marnie said, just, I'm not an extrovert, or I don't want to go to those big social engagements. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about real human connection. Like, who can you call if you're feeling down, if you need something, if you have a problem that you need to just get help or just have someone listen? Who can you call? Do you have a couple people that you can pick up the phone and have them be there for you and know that you can count on them for that social and emotional support?
And this is not about quantity. This is about in-person connection and not necessarily having a big friend group that you just see once or twice a year, but really trying to connect with people regularly. And Stephanie and I have been talking about this a lot. And that is one of the reasons why we started our Minneapolis hiking collective, because we both noticed and realized how much benefit we both personally got from in-person connection while hiking. And we both love hiking. And so we started this group, and we've met once or twice a month for close to a year now. And obviously there have been times when it doesn't happen, but we've slowly been building the group. I think there's 180 people or 50 people or something in the Facebook group. And it's been amazing because people come meet us at the hike, and many of the people don't know anybody, and they're showing up, and we're talking and we're building community. And I think everybody feels so good when they leave. And it's a nice way to do things with other people that you may or may not know, but you enjoy the thing you're doing and you're building a connection.
And I want to share, there were a couple of examples recently where this community piece was really elevated. So a few weeks ago, there was, a smaller group, maybe it was 4 or 5 of us, and one woman who we did not know at all. And she honestly started opening up and sharing quite a bit about just her overall health journey and things going on. and another woman in the group, and her really connected. And you could hear them talking. And really, this woman really opened up and was sharing a lot of personal stuff in her life. And I just think, one, being disconnected and in nature, like we've talked about, it just like unleashes something in you, to be honest. And I looked at Marnie after and I'm like, wow, I feel like we have this woman's going to have a transformation. And the catalyst of it was this hike.
Well, and the other thing is she met another woman on the hike that had been going through similar issues in her life, and the two of them connected, and then they exchanged contact information, and they were going to get together offline or, aside from the hike. And so they made their own beautiful connection, which I just love, because then it's this ripple effect. And I had multiple people tell me after our last hike, oh my gosh, thank you so much for this. This was great. I'm so happy I got out. Like I would have never done this had you not like pushed me. And sometimes we need that little push to go do something out of our box.
Absolutely. And we had another connection on that hike. We connected someone it was a work, it was almost like a business networking.
Yeah.
And it was really, really cool. So it just goes to show you the power of connection and community. So that's one example that we have. But we're also hosting this Mahjong event, our first one, which will be 2 days after we are recording this episode, slightly after this episode drops. And we're excited about that too, because it's people coming together for a common event that everyone knows to play. Like they like Mahjong, they want to play, and they're looking to meet more people in a different environment. And so what's something that you're interested in? Either you're already doing, but maybe you're doing it by yourself. How can you find other people? Or it's something that you're like, gosh, I've always wanted to learn to draw or something, just whatever it is. And then how can you find a community that allows you to do that? And like Marnie said, sometimes you just need that nudge, like signing up for an event is really powerful. Whether you're paying money or not, it just gets you, I don't know, there's just a little bit of accountability that comes with it. Kind of like our community vitality reboot, right?
Well, and I was going to go back to the Mahjong event for a minute, because I love looking at the list of people that are coming. I don't really have any good friends coming, and I intentionally didn't want to share it with all of my good friends, because I wanted this to be a community event where people from all different places were coming together. They don't all know each other. They're going to be sitting at tables, not with their friends that they maybe came with, but with different people. And that's just so good for us. And we're not on screens, and it's structured enough, but not totally structured. So there's still time to like make a connection with somebody. And it's very low pressure, low stakes, just fun. And so it doesn't have to be Mahjong, right? Like Stephanie said, it could be whatever interests you. Just take that step to get yourself into a community. Or if that feels like a lot, bring a friend with you. Bring a friend. Don't go by yourself. And that's totally fine as well.
And I remember there being times in my life where I was just my life was full because I was working a lot, and I had 3 kids that were younger that needed more of my time and attention, and you're driving and you feel like you don't have a lot of free time. But doing something for yourself, even if it's infrequent, even if it's once a month, can you carve out 2 hours once a month to do something with friends where you're not on your phone? I think the key to a lot of this, to be honest, is not being on your phone. And sometimes when we just go out to like a happy hour or a dinner, I mean, let's face it, and I'll raise my hand too. I'm sure I'm on my phone at some point in the evening, but I feel like with Mahjong and with hiking and with other types of, playing pickleball or doing some sort of a league, you're likely not on your phone. And that to me is one of the key differences about like being fully present in listening to people. And sometimes it's like, oh, well, I don't have time for a workout and this other event thing you guys are talking about. And we're obviously big proponents of working out and taking walks and strength training, of course. But this episode is about another area, another pillar of your longevity that's so important. So I guess sometimes you're going to have to prioritize one or the other. But I would say, are you prioritizing your physical health at the expense of your emotional and social health and that part of your well-being? So it's all about being balanced. If you're a 10 out of 10 and you're eating really well and you're moving, but you look at the social environment or your relationships and they're like a 3, well, can we scale back and take some of the time that we've dedicated to our physical health, and maybe that becomes a 7 or 8 for a little while, not completely disregarding it, in order to allow time and space to move that social continuum closer to a 7 or 8, let's say.
And I just want to talk about the loneliness piece of this, because those stats that Stephanie mentioned earlier in this episode are pretty intense. And I feel like I have a pretty full life and a lot of friends, and I do a lot of things, and I still have bouts of loneliness. And sometimes I think looking at your phones can make you even more lonely, right? When you see what other people are doing and you think, oh my gosh, they're doing so much all of the time. And going back to putting the phone down and just getting out there, I think everybody has loneliness at different times in their life. So you are not alone in feeling lonely.
Yes.
It's important to know that and recognize that, and then say, okay, what am I going to do to take a step today so I feel a little less lonely? And maybe it is just calling a friend on the phone and pinning down an actual date, not sending a text. Let's get together sometime soon, because that's so vague. Like, we want to pick a date and a time or suggest something to do, take a walk, whatever it is, just nail it down so you have it in the calendar.
Right. And I think too, ask if you're sitting here right now saying, well, I don't have time. Ask yourself, like, how much time are you spending on your phone? Because maybe some of that time could be swapped out. And the other thing I think that's important to think about is there are physical elements of loneliness. You know, there are studies and different things that we won't get into all today that your loneliness can impact your physical health. And Marnie and I talk a lot about the rain barrel and how just different things that you've been doing since you were born can impact symptoms that you have later in life. Well, don't forget that loneliness is part of your rain barrel. So how can you start to prioritize that? But one area I see a lot with coaching too is when you're lonely, what is something that many women often turn to?
Food
and wine or drinks, right? And so I think if you're finding yourself, maybe emotionally eating or emotionally doing other things that aren't maybe in the best interest of what your goals are and what your vision for your life, everyone's different. Ask yourself, what do you need in that moment? Because could it be connection? Could it be your relationships? Could it be community and support?
And loneliness and isolation are not the same thing, because you could be surrounded by a group of people and still feel lonely, still feel like you're not connecting. So then you need to take a step back and do some inner work, I think, and figure out, why don't you feel this connection? Or maybe it's the people you're around, right?
Yep.
Maybe those are not your people. But I think it's important to dip your toe in the water and try lots of different things and see what fits and what works. Maybe it is a pickleball league or a tennis league or a hiking group or an art class or a music group. I mean, it could be anything. Just figure out what it is you enjoy, what you want more of, and go do it.
And this is where just taking pen to paper, maybe go outside. It's really nice weather for most people right now, although maybe if you're living in the South, not so much. But spend some time thinking about what lights you up, what fills you up, what moments have you had in your life where you were just in a state of bliss, if you will. And they could be just really little moments. And like Marnie said, maybe it's the people you're with. And so maybe you've had groups of friends since high school or grade school or college, and they're like the same people, but maybe you've grown and changed and expanded in a way that they haven't, and that's okay. So then how can you find those people that are going to fill you up a little bit more, that you can truly connect with at a deeper level? And I think it's an important point, that isolation versus loneliness, because it's like someone could be there for you physically. Like you could have people in your life, even your family or people that you consider close friends, but if they're not there for you at the level that you need, the support that you need, then you can still feel pretty lonely.
And you can have different communities for different things. You don't need to have these like deep connections with everybody out there, right? Like you can have your pickleball friends where you're just going and you're shooting the shit and hitting the ball around. And, your hiking friends, maybe you are getting into deeper conversations, or you're somebody that you're a neighbor that you're taking a walk with. Maybe you see a neighbor that walks every day at the same time you do and reach out. Hey, do you want to walk together? Like there's so many ways to create these connections. And we, would love to just battle this loneliness issue one step at a time.
And I think it's important for people that are thinking about retiring, because even if you're planning to retire in 3 to 4 years, but you're like, my life is family and work, and that's all you have, start to think about what's going to happen when you do retire and you have more free time, and start planning now and maybe finding an activity that you can just dabble in a little bit. So then you already have this community, or you have something set on your schedule when you do become, either whether it's an empty nester or retirement, or those periods of your life, that new chapter where you find yourself with just more free time. Because for parents out there that have been busy juggling kids and work and just home life, and their social network is their kids and going to sporting events or other, commitments, then what do you do when you don't have those anymore?
Well, and I've had a lot of recent conversations specifically around retirement with some older people, in their late 60s, early 70s. And I'm specifically thinking about a conversation I just had with my brother-in-law who's turning 70 this year. And he's like, why would I retire? What am I going to do then? Just wait to die? Like, I don't want to wait to die. Like, I want to live my life. I love my work. I'm able to do the things I want to do. So I'm not going to stop working right now. And it's, of course, very job dependent and what your own personal goals and lifestyle is. But there is something to be said for continuing to do some sort of work in some capacity as you age, because I think in the past, men have said, okay, I'm going to retire by such and such an age. And then what? And then what do you do? And now I'm thinking about my dad, who finally sold his business at 79 or 80 or whatever it was. And now he's actually mentoring a couple of young business people. And he's still it feels like he's still going to work because he goes to their offices or their place of work multiple days a week, and he's helping them, and he's using his brain, and it gets him out of the house, and he feels really good about that work that he's doing now. And I just think it's important to continue to find that connection, because again, if you're used to working with someone or working in an office or being with people, and all of a sudden you're not because you're home, or you're home with your spouse, which can be very difficult. If it's just the two of you after so many years of not working together, I can see where that person could start to feel really lonely and isolated.
And I think volunteering is a great outlet too for people, whether you're, of retirement age or not, or working already. But there's so many great organizations. It's like, find one that you're passionate about, find a cause you're passionate about. And I guarantee there's organizations out there that could use your help. And then it's just really a feel-good situation. You're going to feel good for helping. And then the people that you're helping are obviously going to be very appreciative of your time and resources and talent. So that's a great, easy way to, give back and also be part of a community. And just thinking, Marnie, of some of our recent trips and how this kind of plays into community and really filling us up. And again, it's just so individual. We talk about bio-individuality when it comes to food and supplements and workouts, but this is also a topic in an area that equally that you have to really figure out what you need and what you want. But I got back from a trip, I guess a week or so ago now, and we were gone for 2 days, and we were with another family who we've never traveled that long together, never with another family, sharing a house. And it was truly wonderful, like everything from cooking and cleaning and interacting and plans. And it went so well, and everyone got along really well. And then there was that letdown, if you will, afterwards, because, I envision it being similar to kids that go to camp and then they come home and they're used to being in a cabin with someone, a bunch of kids for a week or 2 weeks or longer. And there was a bit of that letdown. And I realized it wasn't so much the place we were at, although that was, lovely and wonderful. It was the people. It was the people that made it. And so I just think, to the extent that obviously it's not about taking a vacation, but it just emphasizes, for me, I have a need at that emotional level to connect with people. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. But just recognizing what you need and what was going to fill you up, and try to create spaces within your home or within your community to do that, even on a smaller scale.
And most humans, if not all humans, have that need. And you're very lucky, Stephanie, that you had such a special vacation with your friends and that it was so nice. And it makes me think of the blue zones and even people in other countries and how they live in community, or they live with their families, above them or below them or on the same street, or, the grandparents are with the grandkids every day. And in the United States, we are not living that way. And I think that the suburbs and all of the way our homes are built and are not situated for community. And I think things are starting to turn and new communities are now popping up. But if we look at how other countries live in community, the community piece is a big part of it. And I would love to be able to, even when we were traveling abroad earlier in the summer, where you could just walk out the door and there's the person doing this and the person doing that, and everybody knows each other. And it looks amazing to be part of a community like that.
I know. And it's interesting. I have a friend who just moved a few days ago from Minnesota to Texas, and her parents moved maybe right before the pandemic to Minnesota to be with their daughter and family. And now they are moving with them to Texas, and they're going to be living together. And her parents are amazing. I mean, I've known them for 10 plus years. I mean, the mother you would know, she's almost 9. Like they're like almost in their 90s. So to be moving to a completely foreign city at that age is quite incredible. And it's all about their mindset too. But that just shows you like the power of family and community. And I do think why they are thriving so well, so much is because they're around their grandkids and their family and versus being isolated by themselves.
Well, and it just makes me think when my kids are grown up, which they are slowly growing up here, if you're listening to this, I'd be happy to move wherever you live and be with your kids as much as you will allow me to someday. So I would like to build that community within my own family personally.
And one other way I think that's I'm going to say easy to do. I know not for everyone, this may not be easy, but something that I've started doing for like birthdays with friends, instead of just buying them a gift, which is fine. We all like to get different things, right? Most people do, is focus on an experience with them. And that's just another way to build community. So I took my neighbor out and we went to an early dinner and we walked around one of the lakes. And that was my gift to her. And it was so nice to catch up because even if you gather with a few people, maybe you're not always able to have like those deep conversations or maybe get more than 5 or 10 minutes with one person. And that was just a really nice way. And then this past weekend, I hosted like a little birthday mahjong for a friend's birthday who I missed a couple weeks ago when I was out of town. And I cooked this whole lunch and had just drinks and desserts and lunch. And it was really, really nice, And so I know time is sometimes the issue with that, but I had the opportunity. And that to me, I guess one of my love languages though is quality time. So over a gift, right? It just depends on what your love language is, I guess. But it was just really nice. And we had these like pretty deep conversations and we didn't all know each other really well. So it wasn't like we were like, there were 4 people that were just always together and spending lots of time together.
But it doesn't even have to be that in depth where it's a whole lunch, and because that can be overwhelming for a lot of people. It can be very simple, like just taking a walk with somebody and thinking about connecting with friends or getting to know people better. I run with a friend who I've been running with for years, but we have our most intimate, I would say, conversations on our runs. Like we can be together in a group with many people, but we never can go deep, right? Because there's all kinds of people around and it's really hard to have those more in-depth conversations in a group like Stephanie mentioned. So if you are looking for more like deeper connections, I think that one-on-one time is pretty important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like you said, you could be social and have a lot of things fill up your calendar, but if it's all this like surface chit chat with people that you may or may not actually have something in common with, then are you prioritizing and like filling up your bucket with what you need versus just like, yeah, you can have like small talk conversation. And that's important too, right? There's a time and a place for that. And there's ways to build deeper connections with people that you initially meet through the small chat, the small talk, if you will.
Yeah. And it's wherever you're at any given time, right? If you are just in your house alone and you just need people around you, take that first step to get people around you because it's totally person dependent, bio individual. And we encourage you all today, this week, to reach out to someone and plan something and put it on your calendar. And then go do it and enjoy yourself and maybe even try and get a little deeper with whoever it is.
Yep. So before we wrap up, if this conversation has you thinking about what you want to reset, we've got our Do It Anytime Vitality Reboot. It's our 7-day functional medicine detox. And unlike our seasonal group rounds, this one is self-paced. So you can start whenever it makes sense for you with support from us along the way. It's not about restriction. It's about giving your body a break and figuring out what's actually working for you. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes.
Have a great day, everybody, and go reach out to someone. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to the Art of Living Well podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It helps more people discover our show.
And if you're ready to take your health and happiness to the next level, we would love to support you. Whether it's through our transformative group programs, personalized coaching, or functional medicine lab testing, we help uncover the root causes of your health challenges and unlock your vitality.
Visit www.theartoflivingwell.us to learn more and book a free discovery call. Until next time, keep creating your art of living well.